So welcome to our video today on the daily boiler room inspection. One of the interesting things that we're going to talk about today is just using your basic five senses to understand what's normal and what's not normal in your mechanical rooms and boiler rooms. So as I walk onto the landing, one of the things I do is I just do a quick glance with all the lights on, make sure I don't see anything dripping from the ceilings or smoke or anything like that. But one of the things that I particularly want to highlight is to use your five senses. So I know it sounds pretty basic, but this goes from everything from obviously sight that we just talked about to smell. Do you smell anything unusual? The air might smell a little bit moister than normal or have a metallic odor to it with some kind of moisture in it, which could indicate that your boilers have some sort of compromised circuit for steam, or you have a leak. You could smell for burning plastics or rubber, which could indicate you have an electrical failure somewhere or a motor is going bad. But there's a variety of things, even from how your body feels when you walk into a mechanical room, feeling pressure against your torso, because there's vibrations that are in the mechanical room that indicate to you that maybe your draft is bad on some of your boilers or hydronic gas-fired systems that are choking for air, and you're not getting enough air into the space, and that will result a lot of times in, you can feel it when you walk in with kind of a reverberating thud against your body tissue, kind of like when you have the windows down in your car and you're driving down the highway at fast speeds. So these are all things that you just really want to pay attention to. At this point, I'm looking at the hot water tanks. There's two of them in this particular boiler room, and I want to verify at the startup of the shift that I have basically the temperature is within 5 or 10 degrees on each of the tanks, which is pretty liberal in the span of how much offset you can have in these temperatures. I'm going to reach up and just touch or listen to see if my recirculating pump is on, which brings that hot water back to the source of the tanks from my distal or furthest region of the building in the domestic hot water circuit. So that's what keeps the time delay at your sink taps to a minimum by having that pump run. So we just verified that the temperatures are looking pretty decent. I'm looking at the steam valves to make sure that they're open, and it's obviously indicated in the tank temperatures. But what I also should have shown you when we started was the daily pass down log board. So this board, doesn't matter how you do it. You can use a clipboard, 8.5 by 11. You can write, Post-it note, chart, or however you want to do it. But a good practice when you're in commercial facility maintenance is to have some sort of written pass down where the shift or day before indicates what systems are running, what systems aren't running, and if you have things that are in need of repair or unusual symptoms. So that's where I have boiler 3 is off and cold, and I have boilers 1 and 2 are on, and I have some condensate pump work, so on and so forth. So then if anybody other than me comes in the next shift, or if I'm off the day after today, the next person can see what's going on and they don't have to guess. So looking down the stairway, first thing I see are the water softeners. One thing that we're doing is the tank on the right, the poly tank, the resident, it's bad. So we have a new tank coming in any day now. We noticed that was going bad because we were starting to get, our water testing was way off. I look at the salt to make sure it has plenty of softener salt so it can regenerate. I look at the condensate sump to make sure that the floats and the pumps are all in good shape and I don't have anything stuck in weird status or disarray. That's condensate pump number 3, which I'm missing. We have that again coming back any day. The one that we're looking at right now is condensate pump 2 and condensate pump 1, which have all been recently replaced. So I want to make sure those are running. I don't smell anything weird. These Grundfos pumps will have an odor to them when they start to go bad. I don't know why, but they just, in my experience, they do. So use your senses for that. On boiler 1, I'm noticing I'm at about 40 pounds of pressure and steam on my manifold. My induction motor is working well. I'm looking at the flame. I'm seeing a nice bluish, slightly yellow flame, which is telling me I got some good combustion. Based on the boiler modulation, it's doing well. So that indicates to me that we're in business. These boilers, American Standard Connees, believe it or not, are 1958 in vintage. They're original to this particular building, and actually in great shape. They don't look, very attractive, but from a reliability standpoint and just good old-fashioned iron, they're doing fantastic. So just look around the boiler, look around the gasketing material that goes around the fire doors, where the gases pass through the different tubes. This happens to be a fire tube boiler. So those hatches, if you start seeing burn marks coming out of the insulation, you can probably have to open that up at some point and reseat that insulation and gasket material. I don't see any leaks around there. This boiler here is minimal head pressure. We do have it off at the moment. So I know it said on the board that it was basically on, but somebody didn't write on the board accurately, so we'll have to make a note of that. And there's, again, when we look at the sight glasses, there is no water in that boiler, so it can't run even if it tried. Just to open this hatch, I'll show you what a fire eye looks like. We'll get into that in a different video. But bottom line is, this fire eye is the basically brains of an old boiler. It tells the systems everything from what kind of flame do you have to the different controls, and what the system needs to do as far as safeties and interlocks and all that kind of good stuff. Without this device, you really don't have a boiler. That's one of the most important pieces in the system. So just a quick look at that. Looking around on the floor, so some of the things I'm trying to notice is just, do I have any obvious leaks? Is there any steam coming out of any of these primary and secondary safety systems? I'm looking, got plenty of salt, flammable cabinets shut and closed, which, believe it or not, I can't tell you how many times I go into a mechanical space and I see flammable cabinets open. With the door open, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a flammable cabinet. I'm looking at the primary steam step-down station, so this is going to take it from whatever I desire my head pressure to be. I think we have this one particular here set at, it'll go up as high as 70 psi. So even though I'm operating the boilers right now at a lower pressure, these will limit that pressure should it happen to exceed, my master manifold set point right now, which is at about 50. Looking around the back of the boiler, not seeing anything. It's really important, if you haven't had this experience, to make sure you have a wet dry vacuum in your mechanical boiler room, and or one of the EVS extractors. So it's basically a vacuum with a squeegee on the front of it. You see them used a lot in EVS and janitorial practices for buffing and waxing floors. These things are great to have, especially when you're in these type of environments, because the water is just all over the place. So it's a slip hazard. It stains your floor, so it's better to just pick it up. I'm looking at my automation on the boiler. This happens to be telling me my conductivity, which is well within range. That blue box that I just showed you basically is your surface blowdown. That's what periodically blows down to keep the numbers that your automation looks for. And that's divided into your surface top blowdown, your mid blowdown, and then your sump or bottom blowdown for your heavier elements. So as we look around, again, just looking for things, common sense things, that if it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. So don't underestimate, what you're experiencing. It's always good to question, circle back, and then try, if you don't know the answer yourself, get some assistance from somebody or a professional that knows exactly what they're looking at if you have a question. That's my chemical testing sink and lab. So all that there is set up for doing any of the manual chemical checks that we want to do. So that's a good thing to have, because what we use is a comparison against the automation. So if the automation's not right, it's good to know that you have a manual way of doing it to compare the two. But in a nutshell, that's what a boiler, a mechanical room startup tour looks like, at the beginning of a day. So I really appreciate you being with us and hope to see you soon.